People here in Greater Manchester have been living under restrictions for 3 months, and they have taken a heavy toll on people. They're struggling, businesses are on the brink of closure. To accept any further restrictions in these circumstances would be certain to increase levels of poverty, homelessness and hardship within our city region. Let's be clear who is most affected by a Tier 3 lockdown. It is people working in pubs, in bookies, driving taxis, people too often forgotten by those in power. But this city region has never walked on by, and it never will. At the start of these negotiations, together with the leaders of our councils, we made a commitment to all of those people that we would look out for them and stand up for what is right. It cannot be right. It cannot be right to close people's place of work, to shut somebody's business without giving them proper support so that they can look after themselves, their families, through a very challenging winter that lies ahead of us. So we've been clear throughout, we could only accept further restrictions with full financial support. We put forward a costed package of measures, a detailed package of measures, but in particular to support people on the lowest incomes and people who are self-employed. £15 million a month was what we costed, was needed to support people across the 10 boroughs that make up Greater Manchester. These would be people who would need support to top up the furlough to 80%, recognising that people can't live on 2/3 of their wages. People who are self-employed also with 80% of their income so that they could make ends meet. That was the commitment that we made. So this would cost £90 million to the end of the financial year. In negotiations with the government, we were prepared to reduce our request to 75 million, and we even were prepared to go even lower, 65 million as the bare minimum, to prevent a winter of real hardship here. That is what we believe we needed to prevent poverty, to prevent hardship, to prevent homelessness. Those were the figures that we had, not what we wanted, what we needed to prevent all of those things happening. But the government refused to accept this, and at 2 o'clock today they walked away from negotiations. In summary, at no point today were we offered enough to protect the poorest people in our communities through the punishing reality of the winter to come. Even now, I am still willing to do a deal, but it cannot be on the terms that the government offered today, because on those terms I could not meet the commitments I made to people on the lowest incomes, to people who are self-employed, to the freelancers in this city who need our support. I could not do it on those terms. And I don't think it is right to ask people to go into a lockdown, to accept further changes within their lives without supporting them through all of that and what it entails. It can't be right to do that. How can we carry the public with us through this pandemic if we are forcing them to lose their income, their place of work, without supporting them through that? How is that going to keep people with what's being done here to fight this virus? So finally, I don't believe we can proceed as a country on this basis through the pandemic by grinding communities down through punishing financial negotiations. We are asking a lot of the public at this difficult time, and we need to carry them with us, not crush their spirit. We need national unity, and that is why I now look to Parliament to intervene and make a judgment on a fair financial framework for Tier 3 lockdowns. Because make no mistake, this was not just about Greater Manchester. all parts of the country may find themselves in a tier 3 lockdown at some point this winter. And what we need to be able to say to people living in those areas is that they have a guarantee that they can plan for, should they need it, 80% of their wages or their income. That is the least that we owe to those people. The money that businesses will be able to rely on to survive. We should be setting out that fair financial framework. I just want to finish by speaking directly to the people of Greater Manchester, because I know they felt a lot of uncertainty over the last week as these negotiations have played out. We know this is going to be a difficult time for you, but together with the leaders behind me and all of the leaders of Greater Manchester, we took this stand for you. We will carry on fighting for you. We will carry on putting your health first, but health is more than the virus. We will support people's health in the broadest possible sense. So tough days lie ahead. Please, everybody, observe the law at all times and follow the public health advice. Above all else, please look out for each other, as I know you will. Thank you very much.
As we act, I don't want anybody to think that your actions, our actions are in vain or the effort's in vain, because our collective action across the country has brought the R number well below its natural rate of about 3. As a result, the virus is not spreading as quickly as it did in February and March. However, while the R is below its natural level, it does remain above 1, meaning that the virus continues to spread. So we need to take action to reduce the R, control the virus, especially in those parts of the country, as you've just seen, where the virus is most prevalent. And this evening, informed by the data that we've just seen, I can announce that Greater Manchester will move to the very high alert level. That means that pubs and bars must close unless they're serving substantial meals. Households can't mix indoors or in most outdoor settings. In some public outdoor spaces, groups must be limited to the rule of 6. And we strongly advise against travel into and out of the area. In line with the additional measures taken in Lancashire, casinos, bingo halls, betting shops, adult gaming centres and soft play areas must also close. Regulations will be laid in Parliament on Thursday and come into force just after midnight. I know that these restrictions are tough, both on businesses and individuals, and believe me, no one wants to be putting these things into effect. But that's why we're also enacting a comprehensive package of support. The job support scheme ensures those affected by business closures are still paid. Those affected by business closures are still paid. And once you top that up with universal credit, those on low incomes will receive at least 80% of their normal income. We've made available up to £465 million to help local authorities implement and enforce restrictions. The last question is to Jen Williams of the Manchester Evening News.
Thank you. Prime Minister, Greater Manchester has been under constantly changing lockdown measures since the start of August, sometimes announced with just a few hours' notice, sometimes emerging late at night on social media. At one point, Bolton was under 4 different sets of restrictions in the space of a few days. Have you visited the region at any point to speak to people about what this has been like for them? Do you think you owe them an apology? And do you think there's any connection between that approach and our current high infection rates? And secondly, you still haven't said exactly how much business support Greater Manchester is getting. Given that you're saying that it needs to be in line with Liverpool and Lancashire, does that mean it will be no more than £60 million? And to the Deputy Chief Medical Officer, do you think that a more localised approach to contact tracing before now would have helped to keep some of these current infection rates down?
Well, Jen, let me just say, to all those businesses, you asked for me to apologise, and I am deeply sorry that it is necessary to put these measures in place, and to everybody who's endured the privations and the difficulties of this period. Of course, I'm deeply sorry for what's been necessary, Jen. But nobody wants to enact measures like this. I do think that there has been some simplification thanks to the tiering system. That's a good thing. And of course, we want to give businesses, people in Greater Manchester, the proper levels of support. As I've said, our door remains open to Andy to discuss that. Though we've got to keep it in line, obviously, with deals already done. And I just want to repeat my gratitude to the people of Greater Manchester for their willingness to help everybody in the country to follow the guidance, follow the rules, and get this virus down. I mean, it's in all of our hands.
So on the question about contact tracing, I believe a blended approach of national contact tracing to kind of deal with the high volume, low complexity contact tracing is a good thing, but I think the local backup to deal with complex and difficult and hard to reach cases is a really good idea. I think you need both, to be truthful.
Dead right.
Yeah. So I know how difficult it is at the moment in the Northwest, and of course from the NHS I'm particularly grateful to all the NHS staff in the Northwest who I know are dealing day by day with increasing number of patients with COVID, and at the same time are ensuring that all other patients, cancer patients, patients with heart attacks, with strokes, a whole range of things are also being looked after and managed appropriately. But as I've said, the key to doing that is to get infection rates under control. I expect that Liverpool University hospitals will have as many patients, well, more patients by tomorrow with COVID in their hospitals than they had at the peak in April. And I think that shows just how fast we can see infection rates and hospital admissions rise if we don't get this under control. So it's really critical, and as the Prime Minister has said, we're all grateful for everybody to comply with these measures, to maintain social distancing and to ensure, quite simply, that the virus doesn't have a chance to spread.